Hello everyone, and welcome to Gaming on Linux Guide. I am Gadget Guy, and today I have for you a Humble Choice Linux review. So, the first thing I want to tell you about this is that everything in here is really just my opinion, and also my own personal testing on my own distro, so, results may vary. So, I'm going to explain my system now. So here I have my picture of the 12 available games, and the little golden badge is the recommendation. Now, that's because there is a humble choice plan where you can only get 3 games. So at the end of the video, I'm going to show off the 3 games that I recommend so you can get the most games for your money, like most hours per dollar. Then, of course, the check mark is near perfect with Proton. The little wrench and screwdriver means that it requires minor tweaks to get running. The gear means it needs major tweaks to get running, and red means it's borked. Borked is just a fancy Linux term to mean it doesn't work. If you like this video, please like and subscribe as it helps out the channel. Control is a third-person shooter with puzzle elements that really drew me in just from the beginning moments that I started playing it. The gunplay is okay, but it's really the powers that get very interesting, and the story is so surreal that you just need to feel like you need to keep playing so that you can see all the game has to offer and finally put all of the puzzle pieces together. Now, I will mention that even though the Humble Choice page says this is the Ultimate Edition, it is not. So make sure that you are aware of that. If you want the DLC, you're going to have to buy it separately. It's really kind of funny because even the store page on Steam, like the entry in your library, says Control Ultimate Edition, but it is actually not. You will have to buy the DLC, which currently is $15 for the season pass. So that's similar to the historical low of the Ultimate Edition, but I would probably wait for a sale until the DLC is probably at least 50% off. That would be around like $750 for the game, and my brain went to $850 because that would be if you got this game for like the dollar with the premium because you get all the games, plus the $750 you get $850, which isn't bad for a game such as this. It has won many awards and was recommended by many a publication. So check it out. Next up is XCOM Chimera Squad. To get the game working requires a little bit of tweaking. To do this, you have to go to the gear icon on Steam, hit Properties, and go to Compatibility. This game does not run above Proton 5.0.10, so make sure that you click Force the use of 5.0.10 and the game will run very well. XCOM Chimera Squad is sort of the 2.5 of the XCOM reboot series. This game follows the aftermath of the second game and has the squad in the game trying to keep their particular city safe. I would say more about the story as it's actually very interesting for an XCOM reboot fan, but that would be major spoilers. They have made the battles more snappy by making the encounter areas smaller so that the characters don't have to run for about 5 turns to meet another wave on the large maps, such as some of the alien UFO maps in the first game and second game. Also, there's a new breaching mode where you can get bonuses or debuffs on an entry before you enter, And then when you enter, you get like a free Overwatch shot, or you get shot because you entered in a weird place. These breaches can sometimes be opened up by using breach tools, which are found in the metagame, where, similar to the first and second game, you're trying not to let this big red bar fill up, or else you lose. Otherwise, it's a fun game. It's more XCOM. This time you don't get to make your squad. Your squad is predefined with their own skill trees and power-ups. And it's very fun and has a lot of gameplay to offer, considering it was just a small side project at about 20 plus hours. The story is okay. Again, it's just an interlude, so it comes after 2 and before 3. And the game is a bit buggy, but if you are a fan of the XCOM reboot series, it is definitely something I recommend getting, because it really will explain the beginning of XCOM 3, and it's just more XCOM reboot. So I can say that it's one of the best turn-based strategies of recent times on PC, and just having more of it is always a good thing. So check it out. Definitely one of my recommendations for the 3 slot. Now to Elex. Elex is an open world action RPG. It has Dark Souls style combat, where you will have to gather your stamina and try not to run out of it, or else you'll probably die. There are multiple factions, all with their own set of powers. For example, the Outlaws love human old style Wild West technology, so they have gun building. The Berserkers are all about ancient magic and just straight up fighting you. And then the Clerics are a technologically advanced faction who believe that technology is the answer. It takes place on a planet devastated by a meteor strike, and it is up to you to try and survive. This game comes from the developers of Gothic. Well, not the exact same developers, but some of the developers from those projects, which is why it is a game where you're pretty much just dropped into the world as a nothing, and you're going to have to work your way up. Otherwise, the game is decent, but it does have some issues with probably budgetary reasons. It does have issues with the animations just feeling weird, which is probably why the Dark Souls style combat doesn't feel as awesome as it could. Also, be ready to have a lot of conversations, because this game loves world building and dialogue, and there is an entire skill tree around it. Speaking of which, there are a ton of skills, and you can only learn them from trainers. As soon as you get a skill point, you can't just spend it. You've got to go find a trainer to make sure that you don't just waste your point for 3 more hours. You have to go find a trainer and get some good training that you will have to pay for so that you can spend your points. Other than that, it is a fun game. It is a little jank, which means, it's not the highest of quality, but there's definitely a lot of fun to be had, and there's a decent amount of replayability. Next up is WWE Battlegrounds. In WWE Battlegrounds, it's sort of like a easy brawler where you mash a couple buttons and silly things happen. You've got 2 real combos, a punch and kick button, which is you use to use these combos, and other than that, there are a few special moves. It's pretty basic. The game has microtransactions, and it takes a while to actually get the wrestler you want. I will say the selection of wrestlers, though, is pretty good, as it's got the classics such as Undertaker, John Cena, Macho Man Randy Savage, Hulk Hogan, but it also has some of the newer wrestlers that I am not as familiar with. The graphics are okay, weirdly cartoonish. The music's pretty good. It really does sound awesome, and there really isn't a lot of a multiplayer community. So if you're buying this to play online multiplayer, I really would not suggest it. I would consider this definitely on the lower end of games I recommend getting for the humble choice. But if you're getting all 12 with the premium plan, then, it's okay. Plus, there are a ton of loading times. I just wanted to add this in as a technical issue here at the end. I really wish they could cut down the loading times because every time you go to a new screen, there's a loading time, and it really just detracts from the action. Next up, Kingdom's Two Crowns. Kingdom Two Crowns is a simplified RTS game that two players can play. It's the third in the series, with the first game really being a prototype, the second one being okay, and Kingdom Two Crowns being really the final product. This game controls well, though I really wish they would get rid of the stamina that your horse has. I understand that it is to create tension when the bad guys are coming for your crown, but it is really annoying during the day when you are trying to really explore the entire island when you're having to stop and go really slow all of a sudden because the horse is tired. Also, again, the game is very simple, which sort of makes it rather repetitive at times. Because most of the time you're going to be starting the same exact way. You're going to get some peasants, and then you're going to build some walls to make sure that you don't get invaded immediately from the bad guys. Finally, the only resource you have is coins, but that's fine because it's used in a smart way, and it's sort of reminiscent to like a king throwing coins to their subjects. The art is absolutely beautiful. I love it, as well as the music. The art is a pixel art style with really good parallaxing, which is a scrolling like pixel art background, and it's just a joy to look at. This is definitely a perfect game for perhaps a significant other who is not very familiar with video games or a younger sibling. So definitely check this out if you want to play some strategy gaming while also not getting to StarCraft levels of APM, which is actions per minute, which is like clicking nonstop. Next up, Hotshot Racing. Hotshot Racing is a 3D arcade racer that really feels pretty simple, along with its really simple graphics. The graphics are sort of cel shaded, but not as good as like a Wind Waker. The music is pretty bumpin', which is good. The gameplay, though, it's really just a lot of go straight and then occasionally drift with really difficult drift controls. Definitely one of the ones on the lower end of the scale of ones I would recommend because there just doesn't feel like a lot to it. Peaky Blinders Mastermind comes in number 7. Peaky Blinders Mastermind is a really interesting puzzle game based on the hit Netflix TV show Peaky Blinders. It has some of the same characters, and it really is very interesting because it plays with time. So you control one character and do certain actions, and then you can control another character, and the first character that you played with will do the same actions because you can rewind forward and backwards in time, and you can have the actions play out simultaneously to beat puzzles. It's really quite enjoyable, but it's disappointing that the game lasts for so little amount of time. I really would have liked to see this one at least get workshop support or something to really make the game have a higher longevity, because the premise is really solid. It just doesn't give a lot of playtime to really explain why it is at the price it is on Steam, but thankfully it is $1 if you buy the premium plan, so definitely check it out if you're a fan of puzzles. Number 8 is Cyberhook. Cyberhook has a simple premise. Go from the start, get to the end in a weird computer Tron-like world. But the thing is that you have to traverse this world as fast as possible. This is definitely like a high score speedrunner game. You can shoot with the right mouse button to destroy green blocks, and you can hook onto blue blocks while red blocks kill you. If you're running or falling downwards or horizontally, you are able to pick up a lot of speed. It's quite a fun game, but again, this is really designed for someone who wants to try and get a really good high score. Otherwise, it won't last for very long. But it is definitely worth checking out if you get the premium plan, since you get all the games anyway. Number 9 is Pester Quest. This is a visual novel based upon the Homestuck comic series, and it specifically mentions at the get-go that you should read the comics and play the previous games in the series before playing this one. So I'm going to cut this short. It's a visual novel, and you gotta like Homestuck. If you like those two things, check it out. Otherwise, give it a pass unless you get all the games anyway. Wildfire comes in at number 10. Have you ever wanted to know what Solid Snake mixed with Avatar The Last Airbender would be like? That would be Wildfire. You play as a sneaky tribesman trying to avoid death from a warlike other country, but you can wield the power of the elements around you. You start off with fire, and you have to kind of solve problems to sneak around. Like, for example, if you throw fire and start a giant grass fire in front of a guard, they will get distracted, and you will not be found out if you walk past them because they're too panicked because there's a giant fire in front of them now. It has very nice pixel graphics and is also developed by Humble Bundle. Well, actually, it is published by Humble Bundle, I should clarify. It is a pretty fun game. I liked my time with it, though on Linux there was a slight issue that when I got a new power, it created a symbol with a lot of particle effects around it, and unfortunately this kind of lagged out the game until the sequence is over. But otherwise, I had no performance problems, and I really did enjoy my time with Wildfire. Boreal Blade is a multiplayer game that actually works on Linux, which is a great thing. So Boreal Blade is a lot like For Honor. You are two swordsmen or more going at each other trying to kill one another. And you are able to, unlike For Honor, actually place your sword in a circle of motion. This does provide a lot of strategy as you aren't just switching between like up, down, left, right, but it does limit the amount of combos you can have, unfortunately. There's a variety of weapons and game modes, although the player base is rather small, but it is pretty fun. It is developed by Frozen Byte, the Trine developers, and the graphics are good. They're kind of like low poly, and the music's okay. The online match that I played, it was kind of weird. I really did enjoy that the people online were 1v1ing, and I actually did okay when I started out after the tutorial. But it had some sort of like mechanic where the stage gets smaller, similar to Battle Royale such as Fortnite. Overall, an interesting game. It's very positive on Steam, but the most recent reviews are mixed, very likely because the game does not have a large player base, as mentioned before. Last, but certainly not least, is Ageless. Ageless is a pretty fun 2D platformer with a lot of puzzle elements based upon time. I thought the time elements were pretty cool, but the jumping mechanics were really bad. They feel very floaty and unsatisfying, which makes the more platforming sort of stages really difficult and annoying. more than they should be. The game, though, can be fun if you are really, really into the puzzles, and the graphics are a nice little pixel art style with some enjoyable tunes to go with it. Would I say that this game is on the higher, lower end of the month? I'd probably put it on the lower end. And while it is mixed on Steam, I would probably say it's definitely above WWE Battlegrounds. If you don't like multiplayer, it's probably above Boreal Blade, and it's also probably above Peaky Blinders if you're looking for something a little bit longer. And finally, it's above Pester Quest if you like something that isn't a visual novel only. So check it out if you like puzzles and okay 2D platformers, but otherwise, maybe stay away. Don't pick that one. Or don't worry about it this month because the March 2021 Humble Choice gives you all 12 bundle games if you go for the premium plan. Now is the time where I get to show you the final chart. So, on the final chart of March 2021, you can see that we have a great bundle for Linux because all the games except Chimera Squad of XCOM fame is perfect on Proton. Pretty much you load it up and you're good to go. Chimera Squad, you just have to be sure that you set the Proton layer to 5.0.10. Otherwise, I would definitely recommend Control because it's just an amazing game that has won a lot of awards, and I was sucked in immediately. The Chimera Squad because it's a really awesome turn-based strategy, and if you're a fan of the XCOM series, you need it in your life. And Alex because it's a replayable action RPG with a lot of story and world building and fun. That doesn't mean that the rest of these games aren't valid. Definitely check them out if they seem more your style. I, of course, have a short thought on all of the games that appear in this bundle. You just have to go a little bit back in the video. Unfortunately, I don't have access quite yet to the function where I can set up different chapters based upon video segments. So overall, I'd give this bundle, this is like a 9 out of 10 bundle. There's some really good games in here. I would definitely recommend the premium plan this month because there's a lot of fun stuff that you could really enjoy. I hope you've enjoyed this video. As always, if you could like and subscribe because it really does help my channel to grow. Otherwise, have an excellent day.